What's going on, y'all? Now that Summer League has officially wrapped up, congratulations to the Portland Trail Blazers for winning the Summer League. Can't believe they got a ring before Dame could win an NBA title. Hope that doesn't, start something over there in the Great Northwest. But that's neither here nor there. With the closing of Summer League, we are now officially kind of entering the dog days of the NBA. We'll keep our eye out for KD, Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell stuff. But really, kind of the dust has settled for the most part. We're post free agency, post draft, post kind of all these blockbuster trades. So, now we're kind of just taking stock of what each team's roster looks like. And I'll continue to upload offseason outlook videos for each team. But this caught my eye the other day. Bill Simmons released his NBA trade value list for the summer. Him and Ryan Russillo, that is, did a podcast basically breaking it down, did some shifting with some of the guys that Bill Simmons originally had in certain places, and, have a lot of respect for those two just in terms of, being basketball minds and keeping tabs on everyone throughout the NBA with, I think they make a lot of sense with a lot of their takes. So, no disrespect there, but I did disagree with some of the lists and was waiting for it to come up, for them to mention certain things about why certain guys were certain places, and they just didn't. So I figured I would, kind of give my take on it. And just so we understand here, this is the article, and Bill kind of breaks down what factors he took into account here in terms of salary, age, contract length, player happiness, and how the Rudy Gobert trade, kind of how he took that into account. I made the argument basically that trade ruined the entire market in general, so I'm not sure how much credence we should give to it necessarily in this hypothetical exercise, but it is what it is. But basically the idea here is everything's one-for-one swap, so if you're the 25th player on this list, your team would basically give you up one for one for anyone that's 1 through 24. And, things get kind of weird when you look at specific, the context of each team or whatever, but I like to think of it as which guy would you get the bigger package for just on the open market, the most offers, most interest from everyone. I think we'd take that into account. So, let's get started with honorable mentions. This list doesn't seem to be in any particular order. At least I hope it's not, because it wouldn't make any sense. But we'll be alternating between this article and the spreadsheet I made just to include, age, contract, and some key stats. Obviously, numbers aren't everything, but good to have them in front of us just so we can kind of compare and contrast all these guys. But for me, 2 names, maybe 2.5 names, stick out as just not really fitting with the rest, because you can group these into, young guys that have already made kind of an impact, and then some older guys who, kind of just been consistent throughout their careers, all generally under affordable contracts. But first name I'll say is Alex Caruso here. Now, this is, not throwing shade at him at all. I think really affordable contract is a lot well for your team. Glue guy in the locker room, really active on defense, really intelligent guy. Shoots 33% from 3 last year, which isn't impressive, but you at least have to respect him. Along the perimeter, just to me, really excels in that role. It's just other guys on this list play bigger roles and just have more impact. So I think you could get a lot more for them than you could Alex Caruso, even though every team needs an Alex Caruso. Same goes for Seth Curry down here. He's 31. Again, really hot, good value, at $8.5 million. It is the last year of his deal, so you would have to pay him if you were going to trade for him. But, shoots the lights out of the ball at 42%, can facilitate a little bit. Again, never a problem personality-wise. And that's, being on the Nets, one of the few guys that was like that. So I understand it, but again, if you're doing a one-for-one for any of these guys, for Seth Curry or Alex Caruso, I can't imagine, even at the same, all the shooting guards here, like Gary Trent, Lou Dort, Anthony Simmons. Like, you're not going to do a 1-for-1 for Caruso or Curry or really any of these guys. So I think, other ones I generally agree with. The only other one I'm a little hesitant about is Dillon Brooks here. I understand, relatively affordable contract. Shooting numbers, percentages not great, under 31% from three. And it seemed like when Ja Morant went down, the couple times he did, Dillon Brooks took that as like, all right, it's my time to just shoot like 23 shots. And, the Grizzlies actually did pretty well without Ja for the most part. But I think in that, the end of those playoff series with the Warriors, it kind of, Brooks just trigger happiness, reared its ugly head a bit. So I'm not sure I wouldn't be too gung-ho about doing any 1-for-1 swaps with these guys. And then, Dillon Brooks, I think I'd rather have Curry and Caruso, as I'm just kind of thinking about it out loud. But it is interesting, De'Aaron Fox is included on here. I think before the Halliburton trade, everyone thought, 30 mil for De'Aaron Fox, but he really, showed flashes of being worthy of that contract in those last, whatever it was, 30 games or so. So I think it makes sense to include him. I think you could potentially get decent package for Fox even now. And of course you have your two kind of summer league standouts in Keegan Murray and Benedict Mathurin on here. I think you would get a lot of interest for them, and obviously it's still in their early 20s, so a lot of upside. Keegan Murray is more polished, I think, just as we've kind of seen, and he is a little bit older than a lot of the rookies, so that makes sense. Don't have to go through all of them, but generally agree with the rest. I will mention a couple names that I think probably belong on this list more than Caruso, Curry, or Dillon Brooks. First of which is Saddiq Bey. Early 20s, shown he can score the ball at a high level. I know it was against the Magic that he put up like 50, but everyone plays the Magic, and not a lot of players put up 50 points. So Saddiq Bey, defensively strong. So I think you could get a lot of 1-for-1 for some of these guys with Saddiq Bey. Another one, Keldon Johnson. Just signed an extension, 4 for $80 million. I think that kind of proves how the Spurs feel about him. Another guy in his early 20s that I think, would have a lot of trade value, but obviously going to stick in San Antonio for the time being. Another guy, I think we forget how good Lonzo Ball can be. I understand the injury history. Contract is, I believe, low 20s, high teens range. Can shoot the ball really well. Kind of a rare breed as a facilitator at the point guard position. Not a lot of those anymore. And the last name I'll mention, which I don't love, but I think Michael Porter Jr. does deserve a shout out just because of the upside that in the flashes he's shown. We all understand the kind of spotty injury history all the way back to high school for him, but just what he can do shooting the ball at his height. I think a lot of teams would be willing to roll the dice on him versus like a Kyle Kuzma. If you went to the Wizards and was like Michael Porter Jr. for Kyle Kuzma straight up, you could argue maybe they don't take it, but I feel like you'd at least really have to have a meeting about it and really discuss it. Same thing with Caruso, Curry. Like, it's his Porter's ceiling so much higher than those guys who've kind of like plateaued and settled into their role that I think you'd have to consider it. But those are just a few, and obviously honorable mention kind of is a whole. You could make an argument for a lot of guys, so that's fine. But let's break into the top 24, shall we? I forgot, Simmons gives a little dishonorable mention. I think these three guys are kind of the untouchables in the opposite sense of like no team, like every team's like not touching that situation. Kyrie, obviously, we don't have to get into any of that. I think but Ben Simmons might, garner some interest just because still young, still really intriguing, was an elite defender. I think people, the personal stuff is one thing, so I'm not sure about him, but yeah, I generally probably wouldn't want to trade for him. And James Harden's, we don't have to get into that. But But yeah, so I agree with that. Well, that's fine. But top 24. Now Bill Simmons groups them, which I think already is kind of he set himself up to be in just like a ton of quandaries because some of these guys, like the labels don't make sense, but like he wanted the order to be right. But the grouping stuff gets a little dicey here and there, so just know that going in. As we start with the what he calls quality starters, a lot of it makes sense here. It's all guys in the 17 to 30 range in terms of contract, mostly guys in their mid 20s. I think the Allen Ayton is kind of interesting. Both bring kind of similar things to the table. Allen now way more affordable deal than Ayton, who just obviously the Suns just matched the offer, so he'll be making $31 million next year. So it makes sense, I think, that Allen's ahead of him. OG and Draymond's an interesting conversation in terms of would you do a swap. In context with the Warriors, I don't see them ever trading Draymond just because he kind of represents their franchise. But I think OG does a lot of what Draymond can do. He's younger, cheaper contract, can shoot the ball from three better, scores, 10 points a game more. So makes sense. OG's a step above Draymond. I think you could get a lot more for him on the market. But obviously, yeah, the Warriors aren't going to trade Draymond. Something to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this is Domantas Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan. Specifically, not with the next group, but the group after that. We're going to do some comparisons. Keep that in mind as we go up. But speaking of up, the Upside Gang, Group K here. And the first thing that might kind of stand out to you will be Herb Jones at 55. Some of you, if you're not like hardcore NBA fans, are going to be like, who's Herbert Jones? First of all, there's a guy named Herbert in the NBA. That's crazy. But yes, there's a guy named Herb. And, he's shown flashes of being like your prototypical 3-and-D guy, maybe at an elite level. So understand, Bill really likes him, especially in kind of a playoff context, guarding the best opposing player. Makes sense. Still on his rookie deal, making less than $2 million a year. Can shoot the three a little bit. Free throws not too bad. This is again the same thing as Alex Caruso, though, in my opinion, where it's someone excelling in a role, but is a smaller role than pretty much everyone else in the group. So he doesn't do as much, but he does one thing really well. How do we value that? And I would argue, Tyrese Maxey and Tyrese Halliburton, the Tyreses here. I would much rather have them than Herbert Jones, even though, like I said, Jones is a great player. But you look at both these guys, both shooting over 40% from three, both really good free throw shooters, pretty efficient. Halliburton has the assist numbers, great assist to turnover ratio, great facilitator. Maxey, before Harden got there, was basically running the offense in Philly. I think those guys definitely more valuable than Herbert Jones. And probably more valuable than Jaren Jackson, Barrett, or Wagner in, German. But that might just be me. I just think that they bring a lot more to the table than these guys. I mean, Jaren Jackson's an interesting case. I think, he's the only one here already on his second contract. He's going to make $23 million. The block numbers are impressive, but the foul trouble in the playoffs is not. Or the injury history, I'm not sure. Obviously, he's still only 22, but I don't know what you get for Jaren Jackson. I'm not sure who would be, a rebuilding team perhaps would be excited about him. But, not a great rebounding big. I would have some concerns about him. Not sure, maybe he's at the tail end of the Upside Gang. And then RJ Barrett, solid. I think him and Franz are probably where they belong. Josh Giddey, I think him and the Tyreses and Sabonis, like I mentioned, will now become important as we look into this Ginobili's playoff guys, Group J, that Bill has here. And here's my thing. I think, Bill values kind of, excellence in the playoffs. and linking it to trade value, which I'm not sure how many teams are thinking about how a guy performed in the playoffs when they trade for him. I think, you think of who is this guy generally and how does he fit into my team. I don't know how much like playoff kind of experience matters in terms of just trading for guys. I feel like you trade for the player and you don't worry yet until it gets to the playoffs, and hopefully you've built a team that makes sense. And we see here for the playoff guys, contributing to the Celtics finals run. Yeah, it's all guys that made, major contributions on either championship teams or championship contenders. But I think in a vacuum, individually, I don't know, like one for one. Again, think of Sabonis. All right, so a guy averaged 19 and 12. He makes, around the same as a lot of these guys or less. He's at, 18 and a half. So you're telling me you'd rather have Andrew Wiggins at 17 points, play some defense, can shoot the three a bit, or two-time All-Star Domantas Sabonis, different roles, different positions, but I gotta think I would do Sabonis one for one Wiggins. You take Sabonis every time. I think the same thing with Brunson. Brunson's a great player, just got paid more than Sabonis, but never really an all-star consideration. 16 points a game, great guy, makes sense, but I'm taking Sabonis, and the same, I think, Bane, I understand a bit, still on rookie deal, great size defensively. I might hesitate with Sabonis there. Maybe Poole, I think, great scorer, but I can find scoring everywhere. I don't know if I can find a Sabonis everywhere. Tyler Hero, still not sure what his where his ceiling is. I don't know. And the same thing goes with, Josh Giddey, Maxey, Halliburton, all on rookie deals. I mean, you're telling me, like, the Pacers call the Knicks and say Halliburton for Brunson. The Knicks are going to stick with Brunson. I know they just moved mountains to sign him, but, like, if you're offering Halliburton up, I think I would take Halliburton. Same with Maxey. Same with Josh Giddey. So, yeah, I don't get this as much, having playoff guys being in the late 40s and having quote-unquote quality starters. Because even, you throw DeMar in there, I think you'd rather have DeMar than Brunson probably, right? Maybe not. And that's fair. It's debatable, but I think, they have to be in the conversation. And if anything, I would swap the playoff guys for the upside gang a little bit. I also think it's a little generous to, call Tyler Hero a playoff guy. I know the bubble, I think he kind of disappeared in the Celtics series a bit. They needed that second creator and just never got it from him. So I'm not big on this group in general. And I don't think, guys and GMs value just like, guys who excel in the playoffs. Because, like, Sabonis hasn't had a ton of playoff experience, but we can't just assume he's, like, going to be bad in the playoffs. Like, in the series he's been in, he's been fine. So I'm not sure why we're valuing these guys so much more. But that's that. Let's move on to the Westbrooks, which, again, like, I'm not sure Russell Westbrook, I guess he's had some ton playoffs. I've never thought of him as just a regular season guy, but that's fine. Weird collection of dudes here. Not really sure. Like, I get Bradley Beal. I don't know if he's notorious for not playing well in the playoffs. I understand why he is kind of where he is here because of the massive contract that's going to kick in. Shy, like, I think, in the bubble with the Clippers, I think he kind of had a bad game or two, or just series. Still only 23. I feel like that's tough to hold him against him and already identify him as a regular season guy. This just seems like a group Bill didn't know what to this is just like a weird, like, label. Because I think Shy actually gives you, I don't know, as we kind of peek ahead, Shy's a weird guy to place among. I think he might still be upside gang, but again, one of these guys I'd rather have than Ginobili's. So, do with that what you will. And then we have Jaden Ivey, who's never played an actual regular season game. They acknowledged this in the pod. I think Bill just didn't know where to put him. I would also put him with the upside gang. And he probably would be higher than some of the Ginobilis just because of what he can do. I'm not as high on him as maybe some because I think you can get scoring from others. I don't know, like elite scorers are one thing, but if that's all they can do, I'm not a huge fan of that. So I think he definitely has trade value. Not a regular season guy. Jesus Christ. After you talk for a while, there's going to be some voice cracks. That's just, it's what happens when you do a big thing like that. I apologize in advance. And it's just Bill Simmons trade valueless. It brings it out of me. It's talking for a long time. I'm not sure how these guys do it. And then DeJounte Murray here at 40. Not a ton of playoff experience. I guess, he didn't perform great in like the play-in, but, really affordable contract. Near triple-double numbers, great defensively. I think he probably belongs there at 40, but not under this label. I don't know, these guys are just a weird mix. This group should not exist. Group H, sorry, he's worth more to us than to you. Now, this is actually a fitting label, I think, where you have, these guys who have now kind of, integrated themselves into kind of the city that they play in, where, moving them would be really hard, just like emotionally, I think, especially in the case of like Chris Paul, obviously, who, brought Phoenix to the finals and has just been, integral part of their kind of what they've got going on there. Dame obviously is now hitched to Portland, I think probably forever. With the like unnecessary extension he got, and Chris Middleton, love the guy. He's making a lot of money. He's turned 30, so I don't know. He's a really good number 2 guy. Great complimentary piece to Giannis. There's just like, why would Milwaukee ever think about trading him? This is arguing that the Bucks would not do a Chris Middleton for Dame swap. It's like a really random one. It's just like, yeah, these guys are just really hard to picture making a trade for. It's just like why would the Bucks trade Middleton for like anyone? Because it makes so much sense fit wise that like why would you want to mess with that kind of alchemy? But like on paper, would you do like Chris Middleton for a guy like SGA? Because like SGA arguably is better, maybe, but probably not. And Jamal Murray, same thing. Coming off injury, I think he probably should be lower just in terms of, I'm not sure anyone wants to trade for him, just until they see what he can do and how he like is able to move around. So Jamal Murray is a kind of a funky one. And LeBron too is like, well, would you expect him to be higher? Maybe. He's in the final year of his deal. I'm not sure how many suitors are going to want to take on a last year LeBron, especially kind of the pressure he puts on your front office to win now. I'm not sure you'd want to subject yourself to that. I think he makes sense here just in terms of, what like he realistically would get. And Donovan Mitchell is an interesting inclusion. Obviously, the youngest, him and Jamal, and, on the trading block currently, he's a weird one. Whether he's worth more to Utah or not is up to debate. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Would you do Donovan 1-for-1 for SGA? I think you would if you're Utah, and not if you're, OKC. It doesn't make any sense. So, again, SGA is a weird spot there. I feel like he should be higher just with the upside and the youth that he has. But I digress. It's kind of tough to, it's easy. You make a list, everyone's going to disagree with it. So here we go. Too young, too cheap, too good. All guys under 22. Darius Garland, obviously breakout year here. We have the top 3 picks of this year's draft. It's funny because arguably sometimes for some guys the most valuable they're ever going to be is right after getting drafted, because after a season it's a large sample size to know, all right, how does this guy fit in with the NBA? But for now, it makes sense. Interesting to have Jalen Green over LaMelo Ball. I think that would be a weird 1-for-1, but LaMelo, scores more than Jalen, at least at the moment. Obviously, he's 2 years into Jalen's just a rookie year. I think, if Jalen's going to be this pure scorer, maybe he scores 25 a game, but, like, what else does he give you, Whereas LaMelo, obviously defense not great, but facilitating, shooting, rebounding, I feel like you get more out of him and the scoring. I think I like LaMelo a little bit more than Jalen Green, but, that's kind of splitting hairs a bit. Jabari Smith is... I don't know, the rookies are hard just because we don't really know outside of Summer League how they're stacking up against NBA talent. So, yeah, I think you're not going to trade them just on the basis of you don't know kind of what you're working with yet. But Darius Garland, I think, deserves respect here. Whether he should be higher, I think, is up to debate as we look into the next group, Group F, which, again, there's some funky ones here. I'm not going to lie to you. Specifically at the top, but here we finally arrived at Rudy Gobert. If you're wondering where he was going to show up, because I kind of teased it at the beginning, he's about to be 30. That contract can get to like $47 million, I believe, or 43 by the time he's like 33. Obviously, Minnesota traded a bunch of picks for him, which would make you think, all right, he's got to be worth a ton. And yeah, Bill has him here as if he's worth that, because this is the difference between perceived worth and, like, actual worth. Because it's like, are you going to trade any of these guys for Rudy Gobert? And your answer should be no, because it doesn't make any sense. Would you trade SGA for Gobert? If you're getting SGA, yeah. Murray, yeah. Beal, maybe. Both guys really scary contracts, but you'd probably take Beal over Gobert. Would you, even as we go down, like, would you do, Sabonis for Gobert? Maybe. Potentially. Would you do any of these guys for Gobert? Probably not. Why would you give up a great young talent for someone who gets played off the court in the playoffs? It doesn't make any sense. I understand why Bill has him here, but I just disagree with the reasoning. And I know he mentioned he had Gobert in like his 40s before the Timberwolves trade, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And Karl Anthony Towns is an interesting one because it's like, how high are you on him realistically? Would you trade him for one of these younger guys if you did like a Cat for Paolo? Who says no? It's hard because you don't know who Paolo's going to be, but Cat obviously has time to develop. We've seen kind of what we know from him. Obviously made some kind of bonehead moves in the playoffs this year, which doesn't necessarily bode well for trade value. So, yeah, maybe he's around here. Would you swap him for a Pascal or a Zach LaVine? A Cat to Toronto? I think it's an interesting conversation. Really not that big difference in age, even though I feel like Cat should be younger. And, similar money, different kind of guys. I don't hate it in terms of, now that the Timberwolves have Gobert, Siakam makes more sense as a power forward than Towns does. And now that the Raptors have Barnes and OG, could use a center where Cat makes kind of sense where he's not as, a little more mobile than just like a traditional center. So it's not an awful just kind of swap there. But Cat is just like a weird personality, kind of freaks me out a little bit. But he shoots 41% from three, so, pretty good. And then we have these top two guys here who don't play a lot of basketball. So, do with that what you will. Zion took a year off. They got the max extension. Hopefully he comes back healthy, happy, ready to ball. Because when he's at his best, he could be in the top 10 conversation for trade value for sure. But because of the injury stuff and, maybe some of the personality and like weight stuff, I would definitely be hesitant trading for him. And then Kawhi here, I would argue, is too high. $42 million, sat on the bench, always like weird injury management, not very, communicative with the front office about what's going on with him. He's already in his 30s. Because like, would you tell me you would do Kawhi for any of these guys? No, you would not. Why would you do that? Because why? Even, I know, again, I would keep going down in terms of, like, would you do SGA for Kawhi? I mean, like in a perfect world when healthy, yeah, Kawhi is a top 10 guy offensively, defensively, but you're not getting him very often. So like, what are you really trading for? So I don't love him. I think he drops maybe down to down. Just he goes down. He doesn't belong there. And as we move up, this is an interesting kind of mix of guys. Bill really talked about how much he values Drew Holiday. Obviously, really just solid shooting the ball, defensively, passing. Like, he does everything at a really high level. I think he belongs here. I think he is a cut above some of these other guys. I just think, having a really good point guard, especially defensively, is just really important. There are just so many good offensive point guards out there that to have someone who's competent on offense and really good on defense is huge. I also think it's telling, Jaylen Brown here at 19 throughout the playoff run, what he meant to the Celtics. Even NBA Finals, Jason Tatum didn't show up, day in and day out, but Jaylen Brown did. I think that meant a lot in terms of, the value he brings. Always kind of seen as that number 2 in Boston. Always floated out as a trade piece, trying to upgrade to a bigger star. And, Brad Stevens just never pulled the trigger because I think, what Jaylen brings is just invaluable. And, when you look at him, even in this group, like, would you do Jaylen for Brandon Ingram? You wouldn't. Like, it makes sense for him to be higher. Jaylen for Bam is a tough one. I think either would work just because Miami and Boston kind of have similar play styles. That could work, kind of that swap either way. Whether it would actually happen, probably not, because, I don't think GMs are just like, oh, let's just swap for an equally good guy just for the sake of it and switching positions around and everything. I think both bring a lot to the table for their respective teams. So we'll leave that as is as we move into the quote-unquote true franchise guys. Different mix here. We have the two guys going into their sophomore year with Cade and Scotty Barnes, along with, kind of the older, more established Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and then somewhere in the middle, Trae Young, Booker, AD. I think this is tough because it's really Barnes and Cunningham have shown huge flashes. Everyone kind of, the consensus is like, yeah, these are franchise cornerstones. I like Cade in the sense that, defensively size, can facilitate, already kind of is the guy running the offense. Scotty Barnes, not sure, maybe he can be the number 1 guy just with Toronto. Just they're kind of so equally distributed talent-wise. It's hard to say whether given that opportunity he could really run with it. Obviously, shooting the 3 for both of them hasn't yet, gotten to numbers you love, but presumably probably will as they get older and develop because they're both only 20. Trae Young's an interesting one here just because, obviously very offensive-minded, points, assists, shooting the ball, high percentages. Come playoff time, how much of an issue is it that he cannot defend very well? Even if he was, maxed out effort, just the size is just really hard to just deal with in general. Would you do a Trae Bam, a Trae Drew Holiday? I honestly think Drew Holiday might have more value than Trae currently. Obviously, Trae's a lot younger, similar money, so you probably would take Trae long term, but I think, who would I rather have in a playoff series? I'd probably go Drew Holiday. But again, different makeup for your team. Drew Holiday doesn't have to do the scoring that Trae Young does because he plays with freaking Giannis and Chris Middleton. Trae Young doesn't play with this, anyone of that caliber. So, I think the DeJounte Murray piece will then really kind of illuminate, how good Trae Young could potentially be if he goes more off ball. Maybe more of the defensive stuff is kind of alleviated from him. So we'll see how that goes going into the season, but don't hate him there for now. Paul George, interesting one. A lot of money, again, with Kawhi. Similar injury history, similar age. Obviously, when healthy, one of the best two-way guys in the league. It's funny because I think you look at, other wings in the area. This is arguing that, if the Clippers call the Pistons like, Paul George for Cade, Pistons would be like, yeah, we'll take that. And I don't think you would. even like Paul George, Jaylen Brown, like do the Celtics basically get a little bit of a better player with more injury history and 6 years older and like 16 million more? Like, no, I don't think you would. As good as Paul George is, I don't think he should be this high. I get it that, if everything was when healthy, then yeah, but it's not. You have to, injury history, I think it's something you definitely have to consider when you're talking trade value. Jimmy Butler, I think, is, the playoff run certainly helped his trade value. He's a ton of money, gets injured a lot in the regular season, but is just a dog in the playoffs. He's 32. I wouldn't feel great about trading for him, to be honest. I like the younger guys, more healthy guys. Even, I don't know, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, I think, could slide back a bit. And as we just ride this injury history trade, we land at Anthony Davis, which, listen, obviously when healthy, really good. He shot 18% from three, just never really figured it out, got hurt, didn't touch a basketball in April or something. Obviously with the bright lights of LA on him, lots going to be talked about in the media. Do you do Anthony Davis for any of these young guys? Do you do an AD for Bam Adebayo? I would feel better about Bam, to be perfectly honest. AD just doesn't inspire confidence in me personally. It's a big bill to foot. Yeah, I don't love him being even considered a true franchise guy. Like, in my mind, a franchise guy is someone that kind of embodies, the character of the city, of the team, is a leader. And I think, Trae Young definitely fits that description. I think Scotty Barnes, Kate Cunningham will. Paul George, yes, to a certain degree, isn't on the floor a lot. Jimmy Butler with Miami does. Anthony Davis, just like, I think it's LeBron's team still, and I'm not sure I can't consider him really a franchise guy in that aspect. And then we get to Devin Booker, who I think doesn't buy that. Like, he's the guy in Phoenix, even, he's the guy who's been there since being drafted. They brought in Chris Paul, obviously, but that team's really been built, and he's been kind of the centerpiece around it. Had an incredible season this year, led them to that number 1 seed. I think he makes sense, as, absolutely true franchise guy, top 11 in trade value for sure. Now Kevin Durant here at 10, his own group, $44 million, going into his mid-30s. We're still riding the injury history train here. I, for one, would not feel great about trading for Kevin Durant. You take personality into account, never seems to be happy in one place. You trade for him, how confident are you that he's going to stay? Already all the leg injury stuff. I think I'd rather have Devin Booker. Whether I'd rather have AD, not sure about that. But, it really depends on your state of your team. Would you rather have two, really good players coming off impressive rookie seasons than Kevin Durant? Depends on if you're rebuilding or trying to win now. But yeah, I don't love the idea of Kevin Durant on my team, and we've already seen that the Raptors were reluctant to include Scotty Barnes in any deal. Now, it's not 1-for-1, obviously, cap reasons, but even then, I think I'd rather have Scotty Barnes and his upside than Kevin Durant and his personality and injury history. We'll leave it at that. And then finally, well, not finally, but almost finally, we're up to the untouchables here. We got, Evan Mobley, who of that draft class is ranked higher than Cade and Scotty Barnes. I think everyone's really fallen in love with everything he can do on both ends of the floor. Can shoot really long, block shots, just does everything well, just really solid at the age of 20 with more upside and ceiling to go. Makes sense here. Anthony Edwards, same. I think everyone's fallen in love with his personality too. Just seems like someone who's always going to get after, just, competitor, someone you want to build your team around, kind of ready to take that leadership role in Minnesota, even just at the age of 20. I think, yeah, he probably is top 10 guys. And another one that, Minnesota said not including in a deal for Durant. So this makes sense that he's ahead of Durant here. Obviously still only on his rookie deal, not getting paid that much yet, but obviously we'll get the bag later. And then Tatum here at 7. Again, kind of left a bad taste in our mouths with the NBA Finals. Don't love him. I mean, if you're Boston, I don't think you're trading him. Just, why would you? But in, a vacuum, Tatum for Edwards, it's tough because we get kind of tantalized by the upside, by the unknown of what these guys could be. Well, it's could Anthony Edwards be better than Tatum? Yes. But Tatum's kind of the known entity. We know he scored, almost 27 points a game, led a team to the NBA Finals. Anthony Edwards, 3 years behind, but already seems a little ahead of schedule. But whether he'll kind of plateau, we don't know. So maybe, yeah, all right, we'll give it to Tatum for now. I had to think about it there for a second, though. But yeah, I guess Tatum, I don't know. I feel like it feels weird to say he's top 10 in terms of not trading, but there he is. And only, 30 mil relative to some of the huge contracts being doled out doesn't seem too bad. And then the top 2 here, Joel and Ja Morant. Now Ja just got the extension, but for next season he'll be $12 million. So you take that into account, really good value. I still think you'd get more for Embiid though, if we're being completely honest. Both guys have had their bouts with injuries. I just think Embiid is a unique talent where both are really unique talents to be honest, but Joel I think gives you more sense of kind of consistent. I don't trust Ja as much to do what he can do day in and day out every night as I do with Embiid. I can't really explain that. I just feel like Ja is, human highlight reel stuff all the time. Worried about sustaining it, kind of the Derrick Rose parallels. And Embiid, it's kind of similar concerns, so maybe I let that be. Just initially, my gut was I feel like you'd get more for Embiid on the open market than Ja, but Ja's obviously younger. But again, you can get scoring in a lot of different ways. You don't necessarily need an elite scorer. Embiid gives you scoring, rebounding, defense, can shoot the ball. Just doesn't have that many weaknesses to his game that I think I might feel better about him at 5 and Morant at 6, even though I'm not even that big an Embiid fan. I just, gotta give him credit where credit's due. And then we get to the top 4 in terms of trade value in the league. Now, Steph Curry, you have to take into account what he's done for Golden State, just being, a staple in that community. Would you do Curry for Ja Morant and get an 11-year younger guy, a lot cheaper guy? Maybe in a vacuum, but I think it's fair to say you're probably not going to trade Steph Curry, regardless of the offers that are coming in. And you might as well not even send an offer because they're not going to get back to you. Jokic, back-to-back MVP. What more can you say about the guy? I think still not talked about enough what he was able to accomplish in Denver. And yeah, I don't think they're ever going to move him. I think he's happy there. They're happy to have him, and this offseason have pushed to try and surround him with pieces for long term, bringing in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and signing guys. Gordon's long term, Jamal's long term, Michael Porter's long term. So they're gonna have that core there for a while. So yeah, I don't think you're gonna. Would you do Jokic for Curry? I would rather have Jokic, obviously younger. So I would think Denver would say no to that. Makes sense that he's higher. Would you do Jokic for Luka? Probably not. Luka's obviously younger. What more can you say about him? Can do it all. I think if he's in shape come beginning this season, he's going to have a career year, probably be MVP conversation again. Already got some playoff experience under his belt. Did some crazy stuff. That Phoenix series was nuts. And yeah, he's probably 2 in trade value. And the only one you would trade him for, it's got to be Giannis. Already at his peak. I agree with Bill. Kind of the last four I think make a ton of sense. Even at his contract, 30 and 12. I mean, what more can you say about the guy? What more can you say about any of these guys? I've said a lot. It's like 45 minutes of talking about people. So I'll leave it at that. But I think big point, Sabonis disrespected. But yeah, here and there, I just disagree with some of the trade value stuff. I'd love to hear more about what you have to say. Really enjoy kind of just thinking through this as just a thought experiment. Appreciate Bill Simmons doing the trade value list. I think it's really cool. Just kind of take stock of all these guys and the weird hypotheticals of the one-and-ones, swaps and whatnot. So please let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree with where these guys landed. Feel free to check out the article, Bill Simmons on The Ringer, listen to their podcast, give them a little plug here. And hopefully maybe we'll do a little bit more of this. I finally figured out like the technological side of filming while screen recording. It's a good time. So we'll see how it goes. But thanks for watching. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take it easy. And I'll see you next time.